Yeah, it's going. Go for it.
Thank you. Welcome back, everyone. We just returned from executive session to conduct deliberations with persons designated by the governing body to carry on labor negotiations. And with that, we're ready to make some motions. Go ahead, Julia.
Thanks. I'd like to make a motion that we make some updates to the benefits offered at the school. In particular, I would suggest that we okay the switch from MOTA Plan 2 to MOTA Plan 5 for our MTA and all other staff. And that we include long-term disability that's employee paid, and an opt-out option where the cost savings will be shared between the school and the employee.
I'll second it. Oh, McKenna's got the second.
Great. Thanks, McKenna. All in favor? Any opposition? Thanks. And then as a follow-on, I'd like to make a second motion, which is that Emily Strands and I continue to work with the MTA to update the contract to reflect these changes, and also with the contractor, the consultant Phaedra. I don't have Phaedra's last name or her firm written down, in order to finalize these changes. Can I get a second? Dan, thanks. All in favor? Any opposition? Okay. I'll make a third motion, which is that we have a cost of living adjustment, a COLA, for the upcoming contract year of 4% for our MTA staff and all staff at the school.
I second.
Thanks, Ophelia. Got you. All in favor? Any opposition? All right, thanks.
Thank you, Julia. And that is our placeholder 6 CBA contract update, which is what we just covered, which is the updated plan and COLA increase, which brings us to item number 7, which is our budget review. And Michelle, I have you down for that, but I'm happy to help step in and talk about some of where we're at there. I just put you in, but my name's not there, but my name's there with you anyway. So.
Well, we're in a right step when we get the COLA, because that's kind of what we've been waiting for, is to finalize the COLA so that we can move forward with salaries, since that is a big part of our budget. What I heard from Veronica today is that we are still working within our operating, and she feels like we can finish the next month off, that we have enough funds to finish, do the payroll for the next month. So we're going to kind of stick with that. And then we are working on the budget for the 24-25 school year, and with pretty much keeping staffing levels the same. And that goes with a couple of little caveats, and that would be, we used to have 3 middle school teachers, and since we have 42 kids, we went down to 2, but moving that position over to hiring a music teacher. So that's kind of keeps it the same. The other difference, sorry, I shouldn't be eating popcorn. Sorry. Would be the ESSER funded preschool had a licensed teacher in it, which was pretty expensive to do. And so changing that over to a classified staff member will allow us to grow the preschool to 20, and keeping the employee costs just slightly higher, but about, other than benefits, about the same. So and so we're just going to keep the budget as far as the consumables or materials costs are about the same. We're just kind of rolling everything up. So sorry.
I
Anybody?
can speak to some other stuff here for a second if you'd like.
Yeah.
So what we're also waiting on is our what's called our funding agreement, which shows kind of what we're getting passed through. So we have our pass through right here that you see. But there's also all these other cofactors that are involved, and there's an updated rate here from ODE for next year, but we don't have all these other factors which help kind of figure out what the total budget is, which is what ours that we operated on this year. So that should come together. Board members will need to have another meeting once this stuff comes together and we have a better picture of where we're at to go through that. But does anyone have any questions over anything we've covered so far?
I do want to say that the only worry I have is that we budgeted for 180 and nowhere near that. So there'll probably be some take back of money from the state. But our hope is we're at 150. Right now, I believe we're at 162 for the enrollment for next year, with hoping of growing that a little bit more.
And on that, I don't remember the exact fund name, but we have a line item in our budget where we put money aside so that if we do not meet that, every year we get to choose, every 2 years we choose where our funding is based off of. So as you saw in 23-24 year, it was off of 180 students. We have a reserve that we hold back so that if we don't meet those numbers, we can pay that out. It probably isn't the whole amount that we're going to owe, but it's that, 30 times 9,727 basically. But it also depends on what time of year the students are enrolled. They have a different times that they calculate. So it's taken in spring, I think. McKenna, I see you're unmuted, so I wanted to see if you had a question.
I can't help but wonder if maybe instead of a reserve, we might put that to proactive use in a marketing campaign for enrollment. As we've seen, it sounds like we've gotten 12 new spots filled based on the word of mouth, and which is great. And maybe we can do a secondary boost.
I can kind of speak to that a little bit. We finally got the Facebook and Instagram page up. Yay. That took a little, it was kind of me getting access to the Mosier school site because we did not want to create that on a personal account again. It is now in a Mosier school account, so it doesn't matter who comes and goes, that will still remain in there. And I think that really hitting that, because we want to hit the preschool hard, want to hit the enrollment hard. Where we really like looking at the numbers, we're actually kindergarten can use a few more kids. Fourth grade definitely can use some more kids, and then middle school. And we're really kind of hoping, it sounds like Daphne is saying that she's getting a lot of interest from people from D21, especially in the middle school area. And I just think it's because things are tougher there right now. And if we could, if we go up in numbers, then it's good and bad, because then if we go up in numbers, we might have to add another teacher. so there, but 10 more kids are going to pay for that. So I feel pretty good. I think that definitely in the doing the and I would like I'm not sure who made the little thing with the kids on it for the marketing thing for
Leah.
I just threw the JPEG. I only have a JPEG of it, and I threw that on there. So having a clean copy of that would be really nice
Yeah. She said she didn't quite have digital rights.
Oh, okay.
Art. So, but maybe we can.
We might want to work on that then.
Yeah.
Any other questions on the budget review / update? I know we hope to be a little further along, but there's a lot of cofactors. We've taken care of some of them tonight with the contract update, but we'll be closer soon. Veronica's working on it. She's got a lot going on.
Yeah, I think they're also like the audit is also kind of holding us up, because if we don't know the ending fund balance to start on, it's just kind of we'll be in a much better place next year once we have an audit and we know where we're starting. And Veronica's doing a really good job at setting us up for being successful for with the fight, like knowing where we are financially. So
yeah, she did state that we had not used any of our reserves though so far, and we still have roughly $250,000 in our operating account So payroll's 80,000 a month. So we're still doing all right there.
She told me it
Next,
was, yeah, I think our payroll's 90,000 is what she told me.
okay.
And I thought she said we had 190, but I also just saw that we just got approved for we had asked for reimbursement for the literacy grant, and that just got approved, so that will give us some more money coming in. So
40 something. Okay.
I was
Julie, I
just
think you
saying,
had some questions.
it's helpful to hear particular grades where we're low as far as the word of mouth effort that McKenna has encouraged us to engage in. I think for me, kindergarten is interesting because that has long-term ramifications of just making sure that each, that we historically have, that's been one of our biggest classes. And so I just think, if folks looking for kinder programs, and then also fourth grade is helpful to know. And middle school, I just think is so often a time where parents are feeling like their kids are not getting what they need, or they're intimidated by entering these larger programs that the Dolls and Hood River have. And it might be a good time to say, like, you don't have to go to a huge program, and you could actually meet these teachers and chat with them, and you would know exactly who your teachers are and see if they're a good fit for your students. Because I think we have pretty remarkable teachers in the middle school, even though it's a small but mighty program. So just encouraging kind of this line of recruiting that for anyone watching and for all of us here on the board that McKenna has encouraged.
yeah, I would
Well,
say we're at 15 for kindergarten, so we'd like to be that. I mean, my goal is 20 for every spot. And then first grade is at 17. So we're close. We're close in numbers there. Second and third grade, they're at 22. Second and third grade are both. So those class sizes are good class size. Fourth grade is at 15. So we definitely could use some additional students in that. Fifth grade kind of makes up for it because it's at 25. And then sixth, seventh, and eighth. So sixth grade is 11, seventh grade is 15, and eighth grade is 16. So we definitely could boost those numbers up a bit. And I also think with the goal of having the preschool be at 20, that's kind of where we're going to start feeding, if we put somebody into the preschool and start feeding, if we have people going to the preschool, it's just an automatic, hopefully they would just slide right over into kindergarten. So.
Do you think
Go
we
ahead,
are
McKenna.
having a kindergarten roundup?
We're sorry, I think what we're gonna do a kindergarten camp in August, and so that would be about 3 days of shortened days to invite them to come in. So unfortunately, like normally we would do we like to call it like kindergarten kickoff. We would have that, but it's been really hard for me to finish my job where I'm at and then kind of get this going. I just think the transition's been really hard. Going forward, absolutely, we would do that. We kind of talked about doing that, and then the year went on. So I think what my hope is next week is to reach out to the kindergarten parents that are have registered, let them know about, and I know both Billy and Fern are very excited about kindergarten camp, to have the kids on campus for a few days. It has so many benefits because there's less tears, because they know what the building looks like. They've been in there. We can kind of establish some routines that are like where the bathroom is and how to get food and all of those things. It's a really good, and the parents really, I think that will be a good replacement for the kindergarten, and it hopefully gets some word out. When you say you're having a kindergarten camp, you also might get a few more people that would like to come and register just for that. So
Definitely. And then almost, is there a middle school equivalent to that?
that's a really good idea. I never even thought about that. That would be a really good idea. And I think I like that idea. So let me talk we can talk about that.
I had two thoughts on both of those two subjects. We could probably send an email out to the preschools in the area and let them know we do have, 5 openings or whatever it is. And I'm sure there's parents that are trying to figure out, what they want to do. Just an idea. And then also middle school, the class that just graduated, they were all really, really tight. And I think it'd be a good group that you could ask, hey, how has your experience been at this school? Because they're on a text stream and they talk all the time. The group of them talk all the time, outside of school. They're just a really tight class. And so having them have that experience, that positive experience, to be able to share that. When you look at, you can go either west or east and see huge middle schools that don't have the kind of individual care that our kids get here. So I think it's it's how we get that out is a big deal. But those kids, I think, could also speak to that if we wanted to reach out to a couple of them and say, hey, what were your experiences here? Or even do some kind of a video thing on the website or something. I don't know, but they seem to have loved their year, from the ones that I know, and that's awesome to see that.
They're also all, this is not typical, but they're all going to the Dalles next year is what I've heard. Sometimes it gets split, the group splits, but they're finding a lot of comfort. This is just anecdotal, in having that cohort that was so close, being all traveling to high school together and having those sorts of relationships to kind of help them land softly in high school. So it seemed like a really positive year. I agree, and like it set them up well for next year.
Yeah. Any other budget questions? Okay, thank you. That brings us to item number 8.
Okay, one
Go
just
ahead.
scooch back. Michelle, you said preschool has a goal of 20, or is that what we have currently?
We have a goal of 20. So the goal is 20. And currently, one other thing, just budget wise, the hope, so right now we've just hired the lead teacher for that. So we need 10 kids for that. And once we get to the 10 kids, then we have another staff member that would like to move to the preschool. And so we would just move her to the preschool, and then we would have to hire another staff member to do that. So right now, just until we have better numbers, we have one person in the preschool. And we'd probably have to support that with an EA from the K-8 part of the school. But I know it's really hard. I mean, preschool is really hard to find. And I think that we're at a competitive rate for the preschool. And so hopefully, and we've given options of having 3, 4, or 5 days, and the extended day till 3:30, I think will kind of help us out. But again, it hasn't been advertised. I mean, it's only been advertised in the Mosier community. And so we need to, for the Facebook, you have to join, the Dow, there's the Dow's happening, the Hood River happening and all that. I asked to join last night. And so I'm sure when I get home tonight and look at that, and then once I can start posting stuff on those, that will get, we just need to keep spreading that. So.
And that's something we all can help with, right?
Yeah. So if you need the JPEG of the preschool flyer, we have it both in Spanish and in English. So you can post that wherever you can see it and just kind of keep sharing that. That would be really helpful, because there's really not, well, I've kind of thought about, look, I know that they have the Columbia Gorge, I don't know about advertising in that, and getting something in the Columbia Gorge News. I can check in to see how much that would cost, but we need to get, it's just getting the word out. And I think once we get the word out, it will fill up pretty quickly, but until that, I'm just being a little conservative.
Any other budget related questions? Okay, that moves us to item number 8, which is our treasurer's report from Abelia. And we also have to add, we have an action item in there to add Michelle as a signer to our list at the bank. Do you want to take care of the action item first, Avelia?
Yes. So do I just make the motion, Dan?
Yes, please.
Okay. So I make a motion to add Michelle to our bank as a signer. Anyone second motion?
McKenna.
Thank you, McKenna. All in favor? Okay. Anyone oppose? Okay, motion passes. So
And I have that
Go ahead.
form letter that I'll edit, and then we'll use that along with our meeting minutes, are the things, Marie, that the bank will have to see So we can do that.
Yeah, and then Marie, myself, and Jen will have to go in and sign some paperwork.
Okay.
But I will be in communication with all four of us, because, or five of us, because Michelle will have to go in and sign as well. So I'll get that going. And then for reports, Veronica is working really closely right now with Michelle with the budget, and also with Summer, as we are really trying to hit the deadline of the end of this month. There is a there's still a good chance that we will be able to, that Summer will be able to get the whole audit done by June 30th, but there is also a possibility that it might not happen. It all depends on how much the review gets done, and part of that has been done. Part of it has to do with, there's a lot of things that we're still trying to figure out because it hasn't been documented. We are putting new things in place to be able to make sure that things are well documented, and we have a structure to to be able to make sure that everything is adequate for auditing and also for clarity purposes. And then the other part of it is we did just get change of auditors. We have 2 new auditors now that we're working with, and so that has brought in new requests from these 2 other folks. And that was more of a part of with the audit firm we are working with versus our side of things. But other than that, I don't really have much more updates, more than Veronica will be sending out more transaction reports for all of us to look at. And that will give you guys all an ability to look at them, and then the next board meeting we can approve those transactions, or if there's any questions or additional needs of those expenses, it can be asked as well.
Any questions for Avelia? Oh,
No, I was going to ask, I mean, I've been trying to get it for the fundraising one and just to see where everything ended up. And so when that does come, I'll have an update for the whole group.
Yeah, so so fundraising as well as other reports, Veronica, and I agree with her. She does have reports done, but they're not reconciled. And what that means is there have not been completely made sure that those are the last numbers. Just she's taking that, and I think it's a good idea to be conservative and not give out a number if there's still a possibility it might change. So that's the whole reason why they haven't gone out, but that work is being worked on, and hopefully after this audit, we will be able to really start reconciling all these reports, and that should fairly go rather more quickly than what our audit has been lasting.
Thank you.
So I appreciate everyone's patience.
Generally, our meetings, the business manager meetings, there's only so much time, right? There's that Veronica has, and so it's like, where do we want to direct her? Like right now, it's the budget, and so she just doesn't have the time to really go through everything we wanted to do. But she's hired on as a business manager, so once we get this stuff done, obviously we'll have the budget, and the grants are kind of our big things right now, because we want to make sure we maximize the ESSER grant funding and make sure we're able to get all those reimbursements for that, because that's $380,000 that were left in there from last year that we want to make sure we capture, and then establishing a budget. So those are the 2 priorities that she has right now. She's working with Summer on the audit. Summer is the main point, though, on the audit, and that audit is more complicated because of the things that Avelia just said. We've got new auditors that just came on that got given to us that we're not familiar with, and they'll have their own set of things that they're nervous about before it goes to the next level of audit. So we're hoping to make that June 30th deadline, but it might not happen. I don't know. There's only so much we can control. And then Dawn is also working with Summer on trying to reconcile those just whatever the bills were that came in, just trying to make sure we can put them to something. So.
And there's also the facility portions that Veronica's working really closely, because if we don't get the ball rolling, it's going to continue to, I mean, it's just a side effect. It's going to continue to put things farther and farther out. And so again, I appreciate everyone's patience. It's been a learning and a working curve, but I think we're really getting really close to get things back on track.
Any other treasurer report questions? Okay, thank you. We'll go to item number 9, which is audit contract amendment. This is a amendment to the contract audit with Summer, and it's to cover the cost of Veronica as our business manager. And so you all have that in your inbox. I can pull it up if you want me to on the screen, if you have questions about it, or we can vote on it. But I'm happy to bring it up on the screen if you need me to. Just let me know. We had our initial contract with Summer, and this is just an adjustment based on us hiring Veronica as our business manager. And she hasn't given us a firm timeline, but around 2 years is her availability. It has a lot to do with kids and homeschooling and all that kind of stuff.
Is this based on a certain amount of hours that she'd be working?
I don't know. I mean, I think it's just a monthly fee of $2,000 per month. Go ahead, Marie.
Did you just say that Veronica is possibly going to stay on for 2 more years?
Possibly, but she has lots. She has 3 little kids.
Wow.
I don't want
Okay.
to. I don't want to commit her to something it's
Well,
possible.
Yay.
You know, it's possible, but she has a lot going on. She's in a different time zone. You know, but she's doing a great job working with us and hitting early meetings and staying late.
Yeah, because anyways, well, yeah, I thought
Yeah.
she, you know, she came on and saved the day, and well, great.
Yeah, it's a gift for sure. Like she's a lot of it with anybody who takes on that role is to truly get their feet underneath them. It's like, what are all of our things that we're dealing with? What are all the data points they need to understand? And she's quick with all that. So she's doing a great job. And so that's basically what this audit contract amendment is. It covers that. We may look at in the future changing it to just a contract with Veronica, but I'm not positive about that. It'll be discussion with Summer and Veronica to see where they want to be at there. I don't know. And Michelle can probably speak to that in the future as well. I'm not sure. We'll see how it ends up. But for now, this is how we've been paying it. Any questions on that? Has anyone had a chance to see the audit contract amendment? Okay.
I mean, I'm looking at the amendment and it just says, it just doesn't have any specifics other than the cost, unless I'm missing something.
No.
I just, hours would be important to know, but.
I think the way that Veronica and a lot of bookkeeping CPA firms, they don't account hours. It's more of we're getting the work done. But I can definitely ask Veronica to make sure. So far, that's what we've been getting. She's just making sure that work is being completed every single month.
Cool. Sounds like you guys are really happy with her, so that's great.
I think just kind of speaking to Veronica, one of our goals is to just kind of get things set up so that there's, what she told me today is there's a lot of duplications of things, like they fill out this and then they fill out this and then one she doesn't know where so we're trying to move as much as it to be online, so it's accessible to her and it's easier for the employees to access all that and not have so much. There's a lot of duplication of tasks and services, she said, and Avelia's shaking her. Yeah. And she said it often makes things confusing. And
I think she's really hoping once school starts that we integrate workforce, which I think is going to simplify everyone's world. Staff, hers, ours. It's just, it's going to make things much more pretty and nicer.
I see on the the invoice, the number of hours, just the audit alone, I see 75.5 hours. 5.5 for general planning, 4.7.
Yeah, that's Summers. So Summers
Oh, that's
working on her hourly.
Okay, because it says to Veronica Smith. Okay, I read it as sorry, as
It wouldn't surprise me if Veronica doesn't keep track of her hours, because whenever we meet, I get this thing from her that says like the time that we met and the hours. And it seemed very an automatic thing that she's kind of keep. It does look like she does keep track of the hours that she's putting in. So.
I was muted, sorry. Do you feel like you're in a spot where you could approve this board as a whole, or do you want more information? Anyone? Okay. I'll make a motion then that we approve audit contract amendment as written. Can I get a second? Thank you, Avelia. All those in favor? Any opposed, voice your opposition? Okay, motion passes. That brings us to item number 10, which is payroll discrepancies. We had an employee that got $1,200, was overpaid $1,200 in the past. And Veronica has asked that I'm not going to name the employee, but it's a minor amount of money, and for an employee that doesn't make a lot of money. And it was during the time when we had the ESD paying people, and we didn't have the exact numbers on some of those pay rates, and so it was an accidental overpayment. And so the decision in front of the board is: do we try and claw back $1,200, or do we just write it off? And my personal opinion is that we just write it off. There are right now, one of the other things that Veronica is working on with Michelle is the way we've done our contracts in the past has just been a slip of paper, but there's been stipends for other things that have been added in the past that are not as clear and are not written on that piece of paper. So there's changing the way that we have all of our, whether it's MTA staff or classified staff, however we have the contract written up, is having clearer language so that there's no misunderstandings or discrepancies, any of that kind of stuff, which will solve this kind of thing from happening in the future. So Michelle and Veronica are working on that. It was in our meeting minutes today from the business manager's report, our business manager's meeting. With an overpayment.
Dan, could you say that last sentence again? You froze up.
Oh, I'm sorry. So Michelle and Veronica are working so that we have that set up so we don't have this kind of thing happen again in the future. And so we should have it settled for the future and make sure, be able to. I think one of our things was some employees are unsure about what they're paid for, because in the past administrations, stipends were just verbally approved by a past ED, and they weren't really written down, or it wasn't very clear. And so going forward, it's making sure that all those things are extremely clear and written down so that there's no wiggle room where like, well, I think that I'm owed this, or I think you should be paid this. It's just very clearly written down. And that way we eliminate any of these things happening. Part of this happened also because we were in a time of turmoil where we didn't know exactly how much to pay. And we had help from the Columbia Gorge GSD to pay our payroll. But a lot of that was based off of these agreements that weren't exact. So go ahead, Avelia.
So just a little bit of background. What happened during that time period, there was no sort of documentation or reference of what those exact contracts or those payments were. It was a lot of having to actually ask employees what their pay was. So, and also making sure that the paychecks were given at the time they were expected, because, I mean, we want to make sure that all our staff are being paid because they're expecting that payment during those days. So that was part of why. It's a little bit of background of what happened. We have, and it's been a lot of forensic work of finding all these, but I think it's we have a clear knowledge now of where everyone's at, and Michelle and Veronica are working on making sure that this doesn't happen in the future, and that both parties and all parties are very clear of where everyone stands.
Just to kind of
Thank
add,
you, Amelia.
there,
Go
can I
ahead,
just,
Michelle.
well, a couple, so three things that we've kind of identified is one of the big things is when they just the time card piece of it is like it was over like on the 25th, and then they're kind of guessing at how they end their month. And so common practice where I currently work is the pay period ends on the 15th, but we're going to make it to the 20th, and you're paid up until the 20th, and then and your time card is done, and then you get your paycheck at the end of the month, but it's only for work through the 20th. And then anything after that will go on the next paycheck, because there's no way possible that if the pay period is on the 30th and you're putting something in your time card and then guessing for a couple of days, that's going to be very accurate. So it's just not a very good business practice to do it that way. That's going to be a change for employees, and we'll explain it, that it actually will make their paychecks more accurate to do it that way. The second thing is we're trying to do as much paperless and use Frontline, because she'll have access to Frontline as just an online program for teachers to put in their personal days, their sick days, bereavement days, and all that. And it's a report that she'll be able to see directly. So that's getting rid of a piece of paper so that she can, because there's a lot of double of stuff. The other thing is giving everybody, here's the step you're on, here's the class you're on, and here's the salary schedule, and here's where we have you at. And so they know that. And then anything that's extra, so any stipend that you have should actually be voted on by the board, because that is extra pay. That is also common practice, is like in Corbett, we have a lot of people who do coaching. So that is actually a stipend that would go on a consent agenda to approve that. And anything that's over 40 hours has to be approved by will have to be approved by me. So there's no working extra unless that has been pre-approved. And I think that will help with some of that. The other problem is with the substitute pay. And Veronica, I'm going to kind of work on a formula for that. So our hope is not to use the EAs as substitutes, which I think has been a problem. It's a problem because you're pulling them away from their job that they currently have and then filling it. So our hope is to try to build up the pool of substitutes so that we're not pulling them out of their job to do that. So, but that's going to happen in a small school district. You're going to have to pull them out every once in a while. So,
Yeah. Thank you, Michelle, for that context. Yeah, I think, overall, we're as a school moving forward and trying to modernize a lot of the way we do things, and making sure that we eliminate some of the things that have caused friction and difficulties in the past. And we're having Michelle on board and having her perspective, and having seen it from somewhere else for 30 years, you have that experience level, and then, having access with Summer and Veronica to proper accounting. And it's kind of the whole thing is being revamped and made in a way that's easy to run and will be less prone to mistakes. So, so for the payroll discrepancy, like I said earlier, my vote would be that we just write that off, that $1,200, because $1,200 to somebody in one moment, it's a lot of money, but it's not a lot of money in the grand scheme of things, and it's our mistake. It's not the employee's mistake. Anyone else have any feeling on that? We have to vote on it. It's an action item.
Do we need a motion on it?
Yeah, but I just want to make sure there was no other discussion before we made a motion.
I would just, caution that this doesn't necessarily mean, each mistake will be considered on a, individual basis. And this was an unusual circumstance because the school was, we were in particularly in a mess, and we're taking some responsibility here for that mess. But should there be another payroll discrepancy in the future, we would look at that again, and hopefully
Certainly.
our systems would not be in such a mess, and it wouldn't, anyway, I just want to have that caveat in there.
Thank you, Julia. All right, without any further discussion, I'll make a motion that we, I guess, forgive I don't know what a better term would be for that, but the overpayment. Is that a proper term, Julia, or anybody else for that? All right, we'll roll with it. Can I get a second? Thank you, Avelia. All those in favor? Any opposed, voice, or opposition? All right, that passes. Thank you. That brings us to item number 11, which is our MTA report.
Hey, hello everyone. So
Welcome.
this has been quite a year. Lots of challenges and lots of great successes. The Play Annie was a great success, and it was really fun to watch, and it was a great opportunity for many students to be able to work together and get together and work on something that was bigger than them. It was a really community building type of activity, and it was really fun to see. They did such a great job. Our talent show was last Friday, and that was really fun to watch. It's always cool to see students in wearing different hats and showing off their talents in a different way. I love to go watch kids, play soccer or in a recital and just see those different skills that they have and how they shine. So that was really cool. It's been an honor to guide the students in their learning and to celebrate their growth this year, as it is every year. And we all feel that for sure. Our last student day was today, and it was field day, best day ever. It was a great success, and we all had a lot of fun. Exhausted, but fun. And we're really looking forward to a restful summer to kind of rejuvenate. And I know I'm taking a couple of classes, and lots of us are doing different things to put back for our spirit. And we're also super excited to welcome Michelle and to work with her next year. It's been great having her come in and give her expertise in ways, and we're really looking forward to moving forward next year.
In May, we had the 2nd and 3rd grade classes go out to the garden and plant some tomatoes and peppers and other things. And Mitch was able to set up a watering system for that. So we would just invite families and community members, to go and check in on the garden every once in a while and see how it's growing, and
Pick some tomatoes.
Pick a tomato, have a tomato or a pepper or whatever floats your boat. So that was kind of fun. The kids really enjoyed that. The 8th grade promotion was last Friday, and it was wonderful to see, actually, and Dan, you spoke to this earlier, a great group of kids graduate, and they are really well connected. And in fact, after the field day and after the end of school today, the 8th grade group hung out down on the picnic tables for, I don't know how long they were down there, but for quite a while, just chatting and taking pictures. So that was just a really nice, connected group of kids. And they just, really respect each other. So that was awesome to see. Pre-K had a fun graduation with kids and family on Monday. So some of those kids are moving into kindergarten, and that's wonderful to see. A few MTA items. As you all know, we've entered into negotiations, and we feel as the MTA that it's going well. We have also been a supporting presence at the D21 EA bargaining sessions that have been happening. And on Thursday at 3 p.m. over at MoCo, we're having a
end of the year celebration, and we welcome board members to join us in that if you are able. And that's that.
That's that.
Thank you. Yeah, it was it's been a challenging year, but it's been a good year. You know, I think we've made a lot of like stabilization progress. That was what our goal was for this year. And thank you all for all the work you've given our kids and the students.
Thank you. Pleasure. And again, it's great to work with all of you. So appreciate that.
Likewise.
Mhm.
Let's see. Any questions for the MTA on anything they've presented here, or any reflections on the year? You know, if you have anything you want to say, please speak up. I personally was able to go and see the Annie play. I had to work the day of the real play, so I was able to, they allowed me to see the dress rehearsal. So I sat back there and just watched the dress rehearsal, and it was awesome. So thank you for letting me do that. I was sad to miss the day, but I couldn't get the day off.
I just want to wish you teachers, fabulous, and staff summer and some time to just not think about school for a minute, and really really grateful for you. And I know it takes a lot of energy, and I've mentioned before, but I come from a long line of teachers, and I know how important that summer break is. And so yeah, thank you, and I hope you have a wonderful break.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, that's the end of our MTA report then. Thank you. And it brings us to item number 12, is our executive director report. The first is school news. So Michelle, welcome. This is the first one. You can have your own, every EDs have their own style on how they want to present.
I've just made some notes to go over. It'll probably be better next time. Oops. Anyway, so for the last day, I do want to also say thank you to Jen, because she has had to step in, especially this school year and especially at the end of this school year, while without somebody there. And I think she's done a really fabulous job of doing that. Sounds like I'm happy field day went really well for you, because I know that was a big lift and she did it. And I know as a teacher, and it is nice to have that. It seems like even though it's a half day, it's the longest day of the school year, because it just seems like the kids are all hyper and you're done and you're ready to go. So I'm happy that went well. And a safe school year. I mean, she really helped keep that ship going. So I appreciate that. I did get to go see this talent show. It was fabulous. Anyway, I said that some kids are very talented and some kids are very brave. I mean, I don't know that I could have done that in there. And one of my favorite moments of that day is I got to go at the beginning of school, and I didn't realize that your kids ring a bell to begin the school day. And I thought that was adorable and pretty cool. So you don't have that in a lot of schools. They actually ring a bell. Anyway, so going through, one of the things I did want to kind of add to this is always have on here is curriculum, and just kind of an update. I did talk to Lisa Stevenson, who I have there. Yes, Lisa Stevenson, who's the SEL. We had talked about kind of beefing up a little bit about what she's doing in her role, and it might be getting, and Jen and I talked about this too. There's a curriculum called Wayfinder, and it's very comprehensive and it really helps kids. If we can be preventative and give the kids the tools, how to problem solve, how to, persevere when things are tough, then it's going to make behavior problems a lot better for us. And so it's just kind, and it just helped the kids out too with that. So I'm looking into that right now. Facilities, one of our big shifts right now is trying to get Gizmo up and ready. So it is ready for 20 preschoolers. And right now it's not there. I know that Jen has ordered a dumpster, which requires cleaning out the garage building so that we can move some of the stuff that's over there and we get the flooring and get it all ready to go. So excited about that. That is a building that is worth putting money into because it's such a great space. So I think it's a space that is definitely worth the money to do that. Students, we ended the school year with 150 students, K-8 and 10 pre-K students. It looks like an enrollment right now, for 24-25 is 158. Preschool is just a little, I only think I think there's 3 people that have, put down they haven't put down, one person has actually put down the deposit and ready to pay. So it's a change for them, but, we're working on the preschool. So, I have looked into, I have talked to, emailed back and forth with the Columbia Gorge ESD about looking into getting a school nurse to come out at least once a month. That was one thing I talked to Daphne about. She's like, I have all this expired medicine. I'm like, we really need to have a nurse come in and really check out the medications, how we're doing things. That's just a big safety issue for me personally. I haven't found the ESD to be super responsive, so I'm going to keep working on that one. I had sent them an email and went back and forth, and I waited a couple weeks and never heard back. And so they did give me a kind of a crazy number, and they were doing it off of 360. And I said, no, it's 160. So we're working on that. It could be that we just contract with, we can actually contract with a local, like the hospital or somewhere, to have a nurse that would come in. 2 times a month would be great. I mean, once a week would be amazing, but I think just even if we can just do once a month to kind of make sure, it would make Daphne feel better about what she's doing as far as medication, especially if you have kids that have inhalers or EpiPens or all of those. There's a lot of, you're supposed to be like sending out the teachers that these kids have a health risk. You document that so everybody knows that we're all on the same page. It's a safety issue. So working on that one. One of the things that might be really helpful for fundraising, and I also talked to Veronica about this, is this would also work for the preschool, is we're trying to get it to be so that preschool parents can pay online. And to do it with mealtime is very messy. It kind of, it's just messing up that program. And so there is a program called My School Bucks, and that is, it's very approved by a lot of accountants and CPAs. Do not like to have third-party people take within the school, but this seems to be pretty well. I've heard of many schools that are doing this. I'm looking into that. That would be really helpful for when you're doing fundraising. Because it virtually is an app that they have on their phone, and you can check, like, I want to do fundraising for the playground. I want to donate to the garden. And it keeps everything accounted, and it'd be one less thing for Veronica to have to manage. And it would be very online. You'd get a receipt. Yeah, it automatically sends people a tax receipt for things. But I'm looking into the cost of it. My guess is a percentage. That's usually what a lot of these programs are. And it would keep it away from mealtime. So and I'll know more about that hopefully in the next week or 2. One of my goals is to get to update the student and parent handbook over the summer, and just kind of look at, I've kind of taken a little peek at it, but there's some updating that needs to be done in that book. Veronica will be probably taking over all of the grant. She is taking over that, which Jen is like, woohoo. It just makes sense because she's financially knows that. I got her onto Smart Books today, so she can, or Smart Sheet, I think it's called, so she can kind of see all the grants. So she's pretty happy about that. Let's see. I'm going to go on personnel. We have hired a lead preschool teacher, Becca Lindley. And some people know her already because she was at Roots. She has I think she shares a lot of the same values, getting kids outside. She comes with an early childhood degree. She's also at a high level where she can actually be I think, an administrator of a preschool. That is her goal, is to have her own preschool, but this is a great way for her to get for foot, to understand how it all operates. And the other thing that Veronica and I are going to work on is the employee handbook. And because that also needs some updating, and hoping to have that all ready for the first week back in August, so that we can hand that off. People can kind of see, it would just have a lot of information. So like, if you're not sure, I would always say, go look at the handbook first. And if they can't find it in there, then that's something that it's just going to help with questions, and when you have questions with that. And then Veronica's already planning to be back at school. She's going to be on a Zoom call with us that very first day back, when we're going to hopefully have all staff there. And then she'll kind of go over payroll and how to, I've heard like how to access your online, getting paycheck stubs. She can answer all the questions so people can see who she is and what she does. I just think that would be really helpful to put a face with where you're asking questions too. So, and let's see, this was kind of thrown in my lap, but evidently we have to give North Wasco a annual report at their next board meeting on the 20th. I have to have it ready by tomorrow. And so it's going to be, I know it's like, so I'm going to work on that. It's going to be pretty bare bones, but just, kind of our enroll. I looked at our charter contract. There's not a lot of stuff that we actually have to report on. It's the tough part is going to be the financial part of it. So I'm hoping to just get some soft numbers for that, and just let them know that I don't think I really want to tell them that we're still doing our audit, but I'm just going to let them know that we're just kind of working through. They also understand not having a business manager in place, and that we now have one, and we're getting lots of things in place, but just telling them the great things that are going on, and keeping it pretty brief with them this year. So, and in the past, I looked at the charter contract, and we're actually supposed to do this report in January. So we're a little late. And that's
Yeah, I think
it.
you could probably give them the operating budget that we used this year. We're still operating within that budget. You're still in your operating account. You're not using reserves. So that would be an accurate way there. I think they're aware of our audit situation. Yeah, so, I think please reach out to me if you need anything, anything else showing up there.
I'm starting my day off tomorrow at Mosier at 8 with the teachers, just to kind of give them a little update on that, and handing them their paper about where we have them on the step and guide. And then I'll go ahead and print out the salary schedule so they can kind of see where they're at. And then this is the time to say, it's always better to figure out any discrepancies before July 1st. Because then Veronica can make the adjustment in the pay for the upcoming contract year. Yeah, so I'll probably reach out to you and
Sounds good.
So anyway, thank you.
Do we need to vote or approve the new hire for the preschool?
Yes, please.
Okay. I make a motion that we approve the hiring of Becca as the new preschool teaching position. Can I get a second? Thank you, Julia. There's a second. All those in favor? Any opposed voice or opposition? Motion passes.
And the second thing is the calendar.
Yes. So has everyone seen the updated 24-25 calendar? So there was a few updates this week, right, Michelle?
Yeah,
This
and
week.
hopefully you guys have the most current one, because we changed it again, didn't we, Mary Ellen and Lisa?
So
it's perfect.
Yeah, it has a total of 190 contract days, 167 student days. I know the MTA and Michelle worked on that. Does anyone have any questions before I go digging through and trying to pull it up?
Here, I see if I can find mine.
I have it here.
It should say final and then 6/10/24 after it.
No, I don't have that one.
Okay, hold on. I'll send it to you really quick.
Oh, I have it actually. Sorry, I saw it. It's the same email train. All right, I'll share my screen real quick here.
Yep, that's the right one.
Okay. So can you just go over, if anyone has any questions, what the general changes were that were revised on this day?
Yeah, the one that was well, the revision of this from the one that you first saw this week is we had a little concern about conferences and where they were at. And so we made them after the assessment day so that teachers would have lots of data and things to share with parents for conferences. One of the big changes, and then we moved the in-service day to, I think we did it the last day of January. I can't see it because it's up too high, but one of the big changes is eliminating the conference comp days. And we did that by just having 2 conference days that are non-school days. And so the teachers, because I think in the past what had happened is it was a half a day for students, so they went till 11:30, and then teachers worked on that Thursday, and then Friday was a no school day.
So Mary Ellen and Lisa are shaking their heads. Let's get clarification real quick.
Is that right?
Because what they were that we worked a full day and then did conferences in the afternoon and night. And so what had been
Yeah.
proposed is to do a half a day and a full day off.
Yeah.
Of students.
Right. And,
Yep.
and so now it's just 2 full days off, and then there's not a need there's a full day off for students. And so staff members, and I think we just talked about flexing that time of having an 8-hour day to it, whatever works for their conferences. And so then they're not having to work a 12-hour day and be exhausted. And then it also eliminates that need for putting 2 extra days off for students. So instead of, because before they would have come to a half a day and had a day off, and then another half a day and had a day off. So if you think about that, they really are only coming to school 1 day. And so, but then when you have the conference makeup days, that's 2 days off. So it gave us another student day. So we were at 166 and now we're at 167, but it also made, I think, conferences better for teachers because I mean, I can tell you that after being at school and then trying to do a conference with a parent is, and parent after parent after parent is really hard to do. So this lets them concentrate more on the conference and making them more like I guess what I want to say is I think that they'll be a little bit better conferences because they're more focused on the conference and not the fact that they've got to get ready for school or they just had a rough day with kids or anything like that. So, and
Yeah, I
then
know those in the past have been difficult. It's like really late at night, and they're there past dinner time, hoping that somebody brings something in or that they bring in something to go like Tupperware or something. It was not ideal.
Yeah, and that is, we want that. And then the other thing is at the beginning of school, we kind of changed, they still have, and I kind of changed what we call them because they were called work days. I'm like, well, every day the teachers are there is a work day for them. So I kind of clarified. So the first day is an all staff in service, and that's where we would all come in. Veronica would meet. It would be nice if we had a board member there, just kind of a welcome back to everybody, and then kind of go over the employee handbook and just some of the kind of basics. And then they have 2 work days. And then we have another in-service. And then there's 2 work days. And then also counting the open house as a conference day for them, a half a conference day for them. Just because I think in the contract right now, there's something about having 4 or 5 things that they have to attend at night. That is very unusual. And I think we need to honor that, they have families and work time, and that is work time that they're doing to come to the open house. And then on the 30th, or one of those, I haven't decided, either the 27th or the 30th will be what we call a training day. So if you work in a school district, you have at least 8 hours of doing what we call safe schools training, CPR like all sorts of health trainings that they have to do. And correct me if I'm wrong, Mary Ellen and Lisa, but I believe you were never given a day for that.
That's correct.
Yeah, that's not nice on our part. So we need to honor that they have to, like, those are mandatory trainings that they have to have, and we shouldn't ask them to work for free for that. So that is something that I think is important to give them. Here's a day for, and we had days to put in for that. And here's a day that you have to do your trainings at school. So. And so the conference days are the same. I think that's about it.
How does our last day match up with D21? I asked just because of busing.
We're actually ending one day early compared to that. Because so this year we went 2 days longer.
Right.
And I do want to say, like, looking at this and the student, our schedule and the student instructional hours, we could miss, what did I say? Jen, I can't remember. Like, we could miss over 20 days of school and still be above the minimum. I think that all K through 8 is at, so 900 hours is what you want, instructional hours for the school year. We're over 1,000.
Yeah.
So we have plenty of time for the kids. It is weird, the 4-5, they're the ones that have, if for some reason we had a huge snowstorm for 3 weeks, they would be the group that has the lowest amount of instructional hours. And it just has to do with K3, you're allowed to count, you're allowed to put in 60 hours of recess. You can count that as instructional time for the K3s, but you cannot do that for the 4-5s. And the middle school, they don't have their morning recess, so that's why they have plenty of instruction. We have plenty of instructional hours, well over 1,000. So for everybody.
And I'll ask one more question, which is, you've got the conference days back to back, so you have both in October and in April, a 3-day school week. Did you guys consider at all doing them on 2 successive Fridays, so you would have 4-day school weeks? And just because as a parent with childcare, having your kids home for 2 days in a row in any given week is a challenge. I'll also out myself as someone who finds the 4-day school week very attractive. So we'll just
That's
curious.
Next year.
Yeah, it's definitely one of my personal goals. But just I think it's unusual for parents to have 2 days in the school week, Thursday and Friday with no school. And I'm just curious if you consider doing 2 Fridays instead.
I didn't even think about that. I don't know. So Mary Ellen and Lisa, how do you guys feel about that?
I think that's fair.
So in October, you would move the 17th to the 25th,
Yeah.
and then in April,
Could go either way, but I'd move it to the 18th.
What about like a Friday and a Monday? Friday one week, Monday the next week.
Well, that still would butt up against a longer.
Yep, but it
week
still
off.
would only be 4 days for 2 weeks. And then the conferences are closer.
Yeah.
And it gives a 4-day weekend, so if families wanted to go away or for 3 days and conference one of them, or
How does that set with you, Julia, or anyone else?
I'd be curious for other people's thoughts. I just will say from my own personal experience, like Fridays tend to be just easier to take off on work. Like there's just a lot of meetings for me scheduled on Mondays, and it's more just common, at least with my employer, people take Fridays off. And so that's an easier day to have my kids at home. But I'm curious for other people's thoughts.
I think this would be a good one to poll. I don't feel that I can speak on the subject. I was just reading an article about how Oregon is, on the very low end of instructional hours, and there's rising absenteeism. So I think this is probably a big conversation, because I know there are some school districts in California where schools hire someone to call the families to see, hey, your kid hasn't been in school, how do we get you in? And so I would be interested to read studies or data about how you know, how changing the weekly schedule might impact absenteeism, just because it seems to be a real concern right now, especially in Oregon. I think we're like we have the fourth highest rate of absenteeism.
I will say that it's always been part of Mosier School that we almost always have at least one Friday that's an in-service day per month. Like that those Fridays off are pretty. Correct me if you think that's wrong. That's pretty typical. What I haven't seen is the 2 days in a row, the Thursday, Friday, and the 3-day school week, which I think is a bigger lift.
Because what it was in the past is they would have a half day on that Thursday, so they would go till 11:30.
No, we never did that. The teachers worked 2 full days and worked till 7 o'clock or 6 o'clock. The conferences would go 2:30 to 6 or 7 o'clock.
Okay, I thought they were half days is what I was told.
No, that's what I was going to change to next year. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, that's what you were thinking. Okay. Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, I think the Friday thing would make sense. So
Do you want to just approve this one as it's presented now, or do you want to just and then change it again and approve it again, or do you want to pull it and work between the the MTA and admin and then bring it back?
I mean, can we wait? Shouldn't it be approved this month before the July 1st?
Do you want to approve it with the caveat that we may change those to be 2 4-day weeks instead of 2 4-day weeks in those 2 months rather than, and then instead of the 3-day week in each month?
Or you just want to go and say, we're going to change October 17th to 25th and April 11th to the 18th.
Yeah, couldn't we do that?
Fine with that.
And that'd be
Does anyone,
right.
Any other discussion on that before we make that move?
Oh, sorry. I'm really sorry. I thought we were getting onto the topic of having a 4-day school week.
No, we're trying to get
sorry.
So I'll make
for
a
that
motion
conversation too, Marie, someday, but not now.
It's
It's
I'll make
already
a
8
motion that we
o'clock.
approve the calendar as posted with the changes that in October the conferences will be the 18th and 25th, and in April the conferences will be the 11th and the 18th. Can I get a second? And I can't see everybody. Thank you, Julia. All those in favor?
And then
opposed?
one more change is at the end of the school year, we're gonna do, which I don't think you've done before, is a portfolio night, which also counts as a 0.5 conference night, but it's on for the K-5, it would be on a Monday. And that's just an opportunity for the kids for parents to come in and for teachers, they're just kind of sitting back and being the facilitator. The kids are doing all the work. They come in and they just celebrate their learning and show what they've done. Here I was as a writer at the beginning of the year, and this is what I look like as a writer at the end of the year. And then for the for the 6-8, theirs would be on a separate night, because then you could do, I think Mary Ellen and we kind of talked about having a shorter time for portfolio, and then that would then be the 8th grade promotion. So, so the 8th grade teachers are not asked to come to several different things that, it's something that they're also paid for, so.
Yeah. And that's in this. I see
It's already in there.
It's already in there.
So yeah.
Let me just make sure. I'll just do this one more time so I'll make sure I got it, because I didn't see the in there. So the motion is that we approve the calendar as submitted with those conference days as the 18th and 25th of October, 11th and 18th of April. All those in favor? Any opposed? Voice your opposition. Motion passes. And it is there in June. It shows those portfolio days. If there's anything else that comes up, we can always adjust it. But at least we have it approved in this format for now. All right. The other thing in the executive director report is Gizmo building budget. So Michelle spoke to this briefly about the needs of that building. Right now, that building is housing science, and it has old windows that are single pane. It has a really old HVAC system, and it has some old flooring. And so the hope would be for next year to update the flooring, which is not a big cost. The windows, the HVAC is the biggest cost of those, which would be probably $10,000 to $15,000. And it would need to be, if we wanted to use ESSER funds, it would need to be Davis-Bacon Act, so prevailing wage would need to be used on that. We have used a contractor in the past to upgrade our middle school building, the old filling station, fuel gas station. So we have a contact there, but with prevailing wage, we have to get multiple bids. What we will run into is time crunch for the summer. But these are things to discuss as a board. What we think, in light of where we're at, we just approved our contracts and benefits. We're sitting well financially, but we also have a lot of things on the plate for next year. But this is something that needs to happen to allow us to use that building to be a safe space for kids, and something that we have a window contractor that's going to do all the windows, the rest of the windows in our main school that we could reach out to. I think it's something that's easy to do. It's just a matter of the board approving a budget for that. So this is a space for us to have a greater discussion about that. And I'd like to hear your concerns. Yeah, go ahead, Emily.
I just have a question. You said flooring, windows, and HVAC all have to be done before this next year in order for it to be used?
The HVAC probably doesn't have to be done, but it provides a consistently heated space. So if we're going to use that for like preschool, little kids need to be, I think bigger kids can deal with like a cold building in the winter and a hot building in the summer. Little kids have a harder time dealing with that. It's not currently insulated. Getting it insulated is part of our, it's part of our DOE grant, so it will happen. Let me see here. I can look back at my notes. I don't know if there's anything else.
Hey, Dan,
The fire alarm should be looked at. Go ahead. I don't know who was speaking. Oh, Marie, go ahead.
is that building, it seems relatively small, and I don't know, I've never actually been in it. I don't know how it's partitioned, but would it be possible to use mini splits?
Yes.
Mhm.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably
so many
one.
splits are,
Mhm.
yeah. And we'd have to just look at and see what the contractor says on that. It may need more, it would need a single outside unit, maybe one or two interior units. So there's the mini split heat pump that lives outside, and then there's the interior registers that live up in the ceiling that actually control the conditioning of the space. And depending on the square footage and how the rooms are broken up, it has a doorway already on the south side, so you could do intake there, and there'd be space there for kids' lockers and shoes and all those kinds of things. It has its own bathroom, and then it has the front space that's connected to the playground area. So it's kind of an ideal space to use. Keeps the little kids with a little kid. They have their own little space. They're out of the school, the main part of the school. Frees up our classrooms in the main part of the school. But the part of it is just the budget, and what we want to look at, what's reasonable, what we feel like we can afford. And I'm happy to speak to any questions involved there. I would like to get something done there and get it updated. Part of it might be exploratory on just figuring out what's needed, like having a contractor look at it and say, oh, we need to replace these things. And I don't know.
And it is, like, I looked at your ESSER funding. It is like something that was put in to ESSER funding was to update the HVAC and in Gizmo specifically. So.
Yeah, and I think we still have money in that ESSER fund that we could use that for. It's just a timeline, being able to get out an RFP, which we still need to do, I believe, for the fence as well. But submitting an RFP, getting the bids back, identifying a contractor, and getting it done before September. And it's like not a huge overhaul, but will take some coordination to make that happen. And I
Some
believe
good
Mitch
people.
and Don are looking at are they looking at putting the flooring in or just getting the flooring for it?
Looking at putting it in, so.
Okay. And LVT, luxury vinyl tile, is not hard to put in.
Yeah.
It clicks together, floats, so it's not like they need to glue anything in or anything like that.
Sounds like a great idea to me, and certainly probably the scale of the project is one that someone in the area would be excited to take on. It's not enormous, but it's also not tiny. So thanks for getting the ball rolling. Sounds like a good investment, especially if the preschool helps enrollment, creating a feeder program for the rest of the school. And of course, just pre-K, they're little and having their own space, their own bathroom, and also for whoever's working with them.
I think it's one of those things that you may not, there's an outlay in the beginning that the benefit is not immediately felt, but it's a long-term investment. It's an investment in the kids that go to the school and their ability to integrate into the school system, the ability to function in a day that has structure, and having kids come in and be already familiar with that is a big deal. So that it takes less of the burden. It takes some of the burden off of the kindergarten, the K1 teachers, because those kids, you're hoping to capture those kids and get them in so that they aren't as disruptive when they get to K1 because they're used to being part of a structure. And so, Julia, go ahead.
Dan, are all these changes ones that would benefit any age group in that building? Yeah,
I
okay.
believe so, yes.
Because
Yeah, I think
I just want to remain flexible. I don't want to commit forever to, if we decide we don't want a pre-K and we want to use that building, we want to have that be the music space or whatever, that we could repurpose that building and that we're not committing ourselves to a program that we're still sort of trying to figure out whether it's going to have long-term legs and fund itself.
Yeah. Yeah, right now it's being used for older kids for science. I think it could be used for anybody, and this is just I look at it as a capital improvement to a building that we already own. Go ahead, Marie.
Hey, Dan, when you start asking around, I wonder if it would be possible to assess or determine whether it would be possible to build on top of the existing structure.
Currently, there's a tree on the west side that has one of the reasons why one of those windows needs to be replaced is it cracked part of the foundation. One of those, I don't remember what the tree is called. It's like a black walnut. It's just, I call it a stink tree, but basically they'll grow in a tiny crack in the concrete, and so that rooted its way down in, and they're really hard to get rid of. And so my initial thought on that is no, not without some upgrading.
Structural, yeah, okay.
Do we
There's
have
a few of those trees in our neighborhood that are spreading their little seeds everywhere and they're growing up everywhere. Sorry, Emily, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just wondering, I know we don't have any bids for this, but do we have a sense of like around about how much this could cost?
I think the HVAC will be between 10 and 15,000 just for the mini split systems. So, I mean, you can always get really cheap ones. You could order one online. It's like a DIY thing, but if we're investing in something we own, it might as well put it in the Mitsubishi units that are going to last a long time, that you don't have to go back and replace 5 or 6 years from now. The flooring is not very expensive. LVT, a few $1,000s for that. The windows, it depends on how many. I don't remember how many windows are in that building. I think there's bigger ones that face the playground and then smaller ones on the sides. But that's just a matter of they're vinyl, so a few $100s per window, and then the labor to clear out the old windows, prep the space, and put new ones. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where we may look at it and go, well, it's not worth it to use the ESSER funding because it'll make it too expensive, and let's just bid it out and see who's willing to do it and see what the procurement protocols that the district has for us. If we're not going to use the ESSER funding and we're just going to use our reserve funding on it, it may end up being half as much and not be something that's worth using ESSER funding for. We probably need to just get some bids and find that out. You know, it's a
So
choice
then-
on them. Do we use for building reserve fund or do we use ESSER funds? You know, and the ESSER funds are going to take longer and it's going to be more expensive because they're following the Davis-Bacon Act prevailing wage. So.
And I think, Dan, too, on the west side of the building, I believe there's 2 other large windows that were covered
Mhm.
as well.
They're up with plywood, and those
Yeah.
windows
Thank you,
are
Don.
probably 8 feet by 6, I think.
Yeah, they're huge. So I think there's a total of 5 of those large windows. And then in the front, the small ones, there's about 5 of those, I think, too.
Okay, thank you, Don, for that context. Empavelia, go ahead.
Don, do you say there's 8-footer windows?
Yeah, those windows are pretty large. They're
Okay. So those usually run about $4,000.
they're multi-pane.
8 foot?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're going to be expensive if you uncover all of them. The ones that are actually covered up, you can't even tell they're covered up. Somebody did a really good job. So if you chose not to replace those, you still have more than enough light coming into that building once we finish the other windows that are partially uncovered.
Okay.
And
Maybe
we do
Don,
have,
Don and Michelle, you guys do a walkthrough and make a determination of what you feel would be the best, you know, whoever wants to do it. I think it's going to be your decision on what you want to see done there, you know, for the space, what's appropriate, you know, rather than the board stepping in and saying that you should replace this window, but not that window. You know what I mean?
I think the hope would be that you guys figure out a dollar amount that you're comfortable with. And if you could vote on spending, I don't know, a dollar amount, I'm not going to say what, I mean, I have kind of one in my head, but if like we don't want you to spend over this amount. And then I think that we can do well to stay within that budget. So.
Yeah. Well, I think around 25,000 is probably reasonable. That may mean we, you know, have to stay under that. So I'd say if it's going to be building reserve funds, 25. ESSER, it may end up being more than that, but you know, it just depends on how you use it. What was your number, Michelle?
A little higher than 25, but
Yeah.
I mean, anyway, I mean, I think the flooring is going to be super like inexpensive, but if you're looking at 10 or 15, my worry is the windows. The worry is the windows. Those are, I think they're old wood single pane windows and some of the panes are broken. And I mean, I guess you can fix them, but again, I think the cost savings of having a better window in there that's going to keep heat in a little bit better would be, I don't know. I guess let's start with 25, and then if we felt like we needed to come back, we could come back.
Yeah.
That's a place to start.
and there is one
Okay.
other thing.
Okay.
That,
Go ahead, Don.
on the wall down by where the kiln is, Mitch showed me yesterday, there's a crack that is running from about midway up all the way to the ceiling. And I think it's where we've had removed one of those big trees. And it's a crack that you can actually see straight through the wall. So that's we're going to have to consider as well.
All right. Evelia, you had your hand up earlier.
Yeah, so I guess I'm thinking more of it as a contractor now. If they're old windows, we're not taking framing, and there might be additional framing that needs to go in. Flooring or not, we're not considering, can we actually put flooring on top, or are we gonna need a pull? And if we need a pull, is there gonna be any studs or is there concrete, or is there gonna be need additional plywood before we even put some of this vinyl flooring? I guess what I'm saying is, at least in my personal belief, 25 is probably not going to get us to where we I just have a feeling 25 is too low of a ballpark, and we're gonna have to be coming back and back and back to the board.
What if we have to have another meeting anyway for the budget coming up here? What if we table the number and we get bids, and then we have a better idea of what it is and just approve it? We want to do the work, right? We just, rather than trying to say, well, let's guess at how much it's going to be, let's just approve you moving forward with getting bids on it, rather than approving a dollar, and just say, okay, what are our options? Does that sound like a reasonable approach?
I like that idea.
Okay. All right. I'll make a motion then that we approve Michelle and whoever else she wants to have work through her to get bids for the work that needs to be done on this project and get a better picture of what we need to do. Can I get a second? Oh, thank you, Emily. All those in favor? Any opposed? Voice for opposition? Motion passes. That brings us to item number 13. How does everybody feel about another 5-minute break here? For all those who aren't aware, we took a 5-minute break between our last meeting, our executive session. So I'd vote for another 5-minute break, if that's okay with all of you. It's almost 8:30, and we can try and wrap up this last little bit here. All right, see you back in 5 minutes.
Looks like they're enjoying the outdoors.
Yeah, it looks nice.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
All right, Emily's driving home real quick, so she'll be late returning, but I think we can move forward with our next one was a policy update. So I just want to make sure that Julia is on board here. We already have a quorum. All right. So item number 13 is policy update. It's approve the EFA local wellness policy. Did you all get that chance to read that email from Thad? Okay, so it seems pretty straightforward. So this is quote unquote the second reading, which would be an approval. Any questions before I make a motion to approve that policy? Okay, I'll make a motion that we approve the EFA local wellness policy as presented by Thad. Can I get a second? Thank you, McKenna. All those in favor? Any opposed? Voice or opposition? Motion passes. Marie, do you need more time on that one?
Is Emily still away?
She's away, so it's just Julia, McKenna,
Yeah.
yourself, Avelia, and I.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. That brings us to item number 14, the transportation update. And this is revisiting something that Julia and Marie had talked about in the past about our transportation. We sent out a poll to families to see what, if the times was working for them for when our school starts and gets out, and it really centers around our busing that's provided from the district. And Michelle and I had a brief conversation with Dr. Bernal when we were there last, and so we do have contacts for the transportation managers and things like that. So with that, I'll let Julia take up the update here and kind of just tie us into where we're at.
Yeah, and I don't have a big update. I'm just didn't want to drop the ball, and so I wanted the board to consider allowing myself and anybody else that's interested to continue conversations with D21 to see what's possible on the busing. I want to be responsive to the survey we sent out and the interest that was indicated there. And I would characterize the interest, and correct me if you think this is wrong, as there being definite interest in seeing if we can have a slightly later start time in the morning, but it was also not overwhelming. So I wouldn't go to crazy measures to do it. I think it was the reviews we got was mixed. But there were certainly quite a few positive responses. I'm particularly sympathetic or feel for the families coming from the Dalles and the really early start times. It's not such a big issue this time of year with daylight in the morning, but in the winter, getting your kids up at 5 a.m, something to catch the bus at 6 a.m. Is pretty intense. So I would love, it may not be possible, this conversation's happened before, but just to have the board's okay to continue this conversation with the busing folks at D21 so that we can close the loop on this and come back and say, no, it's not possible to change our start time. Yes, it is possible, but it would cost this much, or it would require these kinds of changes, and just to have that next iteration of this conversation. And I welcome anyone who's interested in this topic to join in on the conversation. It's one, I think is important, and we've pulled people on, and so I just want to follow through.
Thank you, Julia. Yeah, I think it's important that you guys can have the time to go get more information and report back to the board. So I'd be fully supportive of Julia and whoever else wants to finding out more information. I know the last meeting, staffing is another issue that they're having with transportation, which might be one of our biggest hurdles to get over as a bus driver to do that. But any other discussion on this before we make the motion to have Julie go out and find more information. Julie and whoever else wants to.
Yeah, and I really appreciated the information you brought back to our last meeting, Marie. I think that was a good start to this conversation.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to join you, Julia, if I, got nice feedback from Lisa Caseberg over at the transportation department. So,
That'd be awesome. I would love that.
if you, set up any meetings, I'd be happy to join.
Great.
Awesome. I'll make a motion. The board empowers Julia and Marie to talk to D201 and the transportation department on what our options are in adjusting our start times. Can I get a second? Thank you, Avelia. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Our next item number is 15, committee reports and our fundraising committee with McKenna.
Great. So the one thing I can really speak to is that we've raised that roughly 60 grand for the playground. And we have that beautiful design that Tiffany Strands has provided. If you want to put that up.
Yeah, I will.
Great. So this is something that many people have seen at different times and have given us great feedback on. And it's good for you guys all to get a chance to see it. And it's actually on the Mosier website as well. And it's very clearly stating that it's not set in stone, a work in progress. So feedback is still welcome. But what we were talking about is doing this in phases. Obviously 60 grand, it wouldn't be possible for this particular design, but we can do it in phases. Phase 1 is what we are committing to is replacing the swings, which was a concern from an insurance standpoint. So currently, if you look, yes, thank you. That's where the swings would be moved to, and the garden would be extended to the current, where the swings are currently. And adding a pre-K play area is something we could possibly look into for phase 1, but we will just need to know what demo costs are and the new swing set and any of those fees. But we're going to get that breakdown soon.
Awesome. Any questions for McKenna or anything? Tiffany's on as well, but anything to do with this design here? I think it looks great. All right, so like McKenna said, it's available on the website. I'm going to stop sharing so I can see everybody. But I'm very excited about this. Thank you, McKenna and Tiffany. Before we move on, I want to make sure there's no questions for McKenna on fundraising or the design we just looked at. Okay. That brings us to item number 16, which is a thank you to our outgoing board member, Thad. He sent out a little note that I'm going to read. He's on vacation in Florida Keys, I think. And he sent a letter out that he wanted me to read, Julia or I to read at the meeting today. MCS board members, staff, parents, and students. I'm sorry I'm unable to attend tonight's board meeting, my last meeting as a board member. It has been my pleasure to serve the school and community as a board member for the last 6 years. These last 6 years have not been easy ones as we navigated numerous leadership changes, staff turnover, the pandemic, and as with all schools, declining enrollment and the effect that has on the funding. As I look at the current state of MCS, I feel very positive about MCS's future outlook. Sorry, I was just admitting somebody. I'd like to briefly draw attention to some things that support this positive outlook, in my opinion. MCS has finally positioned itself to pay its staff competitively relative to other schools in the Columbia River Gorge. As I write this, I think, in fact, that MCS is the best paying school in the Gorge. This stands in significant contrast to our compensation situation just a few years ago. MCS's ability to sustain itself is significantly bolstered by the school having negotiated a more appropriate funding pass-through rate with our sponsoring district, D21, 2 years ago. Perhaps as importantly, success in the area reflects the positive relationship the school has with its sponsoring district. MCS has continued to move forward aggressively in ways that better itself and better serve its community. Examples of this include a pre-K program and the plethora of facility enhancements that are ongoing on our campus. Perhaps most encouraging to me is the fact that MCS is currently well positioned with excellent leadership, excellent staff, and a board full of dedicated, smart, and well-intentioned people that I am honored to have served with. I am proud to have played a part in some of the successes I've outlined here and honored to be entrusted with the responsibility to also play a part in navigating some challenging times and obstacles in my years on the board. Thank you for that opportunity. Best regards, Thad McCracken. Thad has been a rock for me the whole time he's been on the board. He really helped steer us through some rough times and has always been somebody who, you know, you could rely upon to bring that engineer's mind to really be critical of anything that we were doing, both financially, but anything in general. He would always come so organized, and I strive for that organization. And I definitely have appreciated his guidance, leadership, and friendship. So he will be missed, but luckily he's in our community, so we'll be able to see him at MoCo. Any comments on that before I move to the next slide or the next part of our presentation tonight?
I want to just echo your gratitude and express mine to Thad for all of his service for the school. It's really no small thing to be the board chair in particular, and the amount of time and effort and just professionalism that he brought to the board was really remarkable, and his attention to the budget. And I think we owe a lot of where we are fiscally and just a lot of the achievements over the last few years to Thad, and just, you know, the fact that the school has navigated some pretty complex situations. So thank you, Thad. If you're listening, and if you're not, good for you.
Yeah, I hope he's not listening. I hope he's out enjoying vacation. Yeah, thank you, Thad.
Thank you, Thad.
With that, this brings us to item number 17, which is seating of new board members. As you all recall, we had our election, and Thad did not run for re-election. And Tiffany Strands is now our newest board member. Welcome, Tiffany. We're officially seating you as a new board member. You're one of the 7. We're happy to have you as a part of our community and part of the MCS board. Really excited. Part of that onboarding process in the past had been a pass down of documents in a binder, which was, I think, fairly archaic in today's the way we have things organized now. It would be a pile of information you'd have to read through, or as Marie has taken on kind of the lead in setting up a system where we have a electronic document that we pass down. And so Marie, Julie, and I will work on that and make sure that you have the documents necessary, the contract CBA that the MTA has, access to the policies and guidebooks and stuff that we follow. And please reach out if you need anything. You know,
Yeah.
it's a big, there's a lot to learn, and you never stop learning no matter how long you serve. And you know, you learn more every meeting, whether it's budget related or contract related or just anything, school function, all those kinds of things. So it takes a while to get onboarded. We will have a meeting in July, a board training in July, and part of that will be some onboarding training just for all of us. But I think Marie's working with OSBA on that to set a date. Is that's correct, right, Marie? July?
I think we got it already.
27th maybe or something?
I've heard back from a few of you. So July 8, 10, 11, 23, and 25 are available dates for, usually it's about a 2-hour online training with Kristen Miles from OSBA. So let me know which one of those days would work best for you.
Okay.
And I'll set it up.
Tiffany, I'll turn it over to you for a few minutes if you want to just say hi or anything. I don't want to just exclude you, so.
Oh no. Yeah, hi. I'm really excited to join the board. I'm looking forward to it and learning. I know that there's a lot of things I don't know. That's a strength, knowing what you don't know. So I have confidence that I can learn it, and you guys were a team, so I don't have to know everything. So that's nice to know. And I just looking forward to serving. And Thad has really big shoes to fill. Not that I'm going to try to fill them, but I'll be my own asset in my own ways to the board.
Awesome.
Congratulations.
What?
Congratulations, Tiffany.
Oh, thank you.
Welcome. Yeah. So the next item we have is election of board officers for the 24-25 year, which is an action item. Currently, there's 3 positions: chair, secretary, and treasurer. Currently, chair is held by myself, secretary by Marie, and treasurer by Avelia. Usually this is the nominated and elected position. So people nominate someone for these positions, and then we as a board elect everyone to those spots. Go ahead, Amelia.
I nominate Dan for chair.
Okay, thank you. I think, like I said this time last year, I didn't want to be the chair anymore, and I still don't want to be the chair, but I will do it just because it's something that needs to be done. And I feel like we are working towards succession planning, and I know that we're all aware of that, and that we want to, it's not great to have me be the board chair forever. I don't think it's good and healthy for the board, for the school. So thank you for that nomination. But I also am open to other people wanting to do it. Happy to help support.
Is there anybody else who would like to?
You're hard to hear, Emily.
Oh, am I? Hold on.
Yeah.
Sorry, I moved. Maybe that's better.
Kind of. It's okay. I think you said, is there anybody else who wants to? Don't all jump at once.
No. I'm happy to nominate Avelia to be treasurer again, and Marie, if she's willing to serve as secretary again. I think you guys have done a really great job in those roles. I'd keep the whole slate the way it is.
Me too.
Julia, since you aren't on that, you are actually, so I'm chair, but you're vice chair, right? I'm sorry, I did not put that in there, and I apologize.
No hard feelings. If anyone else wants vice chair, let me know. But I'm happy to co-captain as long as I'm at least a half a step behind you, Dan.
I don't know. A lot of times you're way ahead of me. Yeah, I think that this model worked well this year. I'm happy to keep it the way it is, but I would like to work towards that succession planning and identify somebody for next year to be the board chair. I won't leave the board, but I would like to move that to somebody else, or at least, kind of identify that, work with OSBA. If somebody is interested and wants to do it and wants to meet with me and just go over the things that, you see a lot of what I do, but I'm sorry, I don't want to derail this whole time right now. I want to get this out there so that it's on your minds as we go through the next year. It's a role that takes on more scrutiny, and there's been a lot of scrutiny over the last few years, and we weathered the storm, but I'd like to spend some more time with my kids. So,
And something we might want to consider is having, I know that I don't know the language we use right now, if it's chair and co-chair, but if we did a co-chairs where you're actually 2 folks taking that full-on leadership role, that might be something that would lessen the load on one individual. And I know that as it is now, Julia does a ton of work to help out, but
she does.
maybe there is some balance. It would be helpful.
Yeah, the co-chair model helps in calling meetings and there's a difference between co-chair and vice chair. I don't know the semantics exactly at the moment, but there are more powers to a co-chair versus a vice chair, and so it allows you to, someone can be acting in, like, say I was gone for a meeting or two or whatever, someone else can act in that role. Julie can obviously act in that role, or someone designated by the board chair. Yeah, Thad and I co-chaired for the last year. He was a board chair, I think, prior to me becoming chair. One thing I would say that it makes confusing sometimes is who the ED goes to when there's a problem, and then it can create some gray area. So if there's an issue, it's like, well, I have two bosses, rather than one person that I need to go to. So that's where I've seen it create an issue in the past. And problems arise throughout the year, problems at school, just various issues. It's a normal course of helping lead a school. Issues happen. And so that's the only area where I would say that there's been friction in the past. So I'm not against doing it. I just want to have that level of caution there about how that works. It's sometimes easier just to have one person and have a strong vice chair help lead. But that way there's no confusion on who to go to when there's an issue. I think our next steps, we can continue having this discussion. The next steps after this are just voting on those individually. So there's a nomination, and then you've already nominated 3 people. I will nominate, unless someone else, is anyone else have any interest in being vice chair besides Julia? Okay, so I would nominate Julia then again for vice chair. And we can just vote on that. Everyone cool with that? All right, so for vice chair, Julia was nominated. All those in favor? Any opposed? That passes. Julia is the vice chair for the 24-25 school year. For secretary, Marie was nominated. All those that approve that? Okay, any opposed? All right, Marie, you'll be secretary again for this next year. Thank you. For treasurer, Avelia was also nominated. And so all those that approve treasurer as Avelia, or Avelia as treasurer, sorry. Any opposed? You're the treasurer again, Avelia, and for chair, you nominated me. All those that approve of that? Any opposed? Please voice your opposition. So we've seated our board officers for the school year. Just I'll state it again, so we're officially done. Chair will be Dan Watson. Vice chair will be Julia. Secretary will be Marie. Treasurer will be Avelia. And that's the end of our meeting. Good job, folks. 8:53. Sorry it was long. We got a lot done though today. Thank you.